We're waiting for the stream to get going. There we go. We got it over there. Now we're waiting for the stream announcement to come out. I really have to do the blue sky stuff for this. There we go. Give it another second or two. It posted. Now I have to see it and redo the thingy from my other account. There we go. Boom. Okay, now what we have been doing the last couple of times is playing the break that I ended the last one on, just to, I don't know, get in the mood. I don't know, something. So the break we ended last time was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one. So we will start with this, and then I will get going again. I'm getting all tangled in chords. Here we go. Okie dokie. Here it comes. It is just my internet being stupid.
My internet is being stupid. Here's a new song we will make.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Oh, I'm tired. What's wrong? I'm really tired.
You. It's amazing.
Show on the road.
There's a road? There's a road? Oh my God, there's a road.
And here I am. As I expected, it's like a day later. It's more than a day later. It's more than 24 hours later. And yeah, it's now, let's see, Sunday, August 31st, the 31st, just after 22 UTC. So before I get on to the newsy stuff, I will do the quick fair report. As expected, we went, we ate. I had some corn and I had a hot dog. I honestly did not eat as much as I usually do when I'm there because we'd already eaten earlier in the day, so whatever. And Alex had some corn. Alex had like some shaved ice and a hot dog as well. It was, yeah, it was a thing. The most notable thing, I think, we sat under a tree. The diet area that we usually go was is a sort of a shaded area with a bunch of trees, less people, sort of in a corner, behind like a bunch of the food booths, or it was actually behind a vendor booth, and next to where they do some shows. But when the show isn't actually going on, it's a sort of a quiet area. Anyway, in previous years, they'd had some picnic tables there. The picnic tables are gone. So now it's just a shaded area with trees. So we sat under a tree. We ate our food. And then I had packed a backpack containing my laptop and Brandy's laptop. And I pulled out my laptop and worked on some projects. Alex pulled out his not his laptop, his mom's laptop, and worked on some projects. So we just sat there with our laptops. Like I was doing some work on one of my little projects. He was, I think, working on one of his projects. I didn't actually like spy over his shoulder to see exactly what he was doing, but it felt like he was working on something, not just him or something. And yeah, we did that while my wife, his mom, obviously went out and wandered around and looked at vendor booths and did other stuff and you know whatever. So we just sat and chilled and did that. Um, my main thing was this backpack with the two laptops, a bunch of cords and stuff that we ended up not needing most of. like a jacket for when it got colder, a bunch of stuff was really freaking heavy. And so when I was wandering around, I was like, "This is so heavy," and I complained around. And we did go see some of the animals at one point, like look at the goats and cows and stuff like that. And yeah, so and because I was sitting on the ground by the tree, or at one point lying on the ground by the tree, I ended up like my back was sore, my hip was sore. I was like, anyway, by the end of the day, I was just so ready to go home. And anyway, so but the fair was done in the way that our odd family does it. Okay, now to newsy stuff. There are a few things on the potential list here. I've got we never really finished talking about this Trump Zelensky subject. Got some stuff about hallway conversations at work, the weaponization of government. That we got the Fed gov Fed governor being attempted to be fired, stuff at the CDC, the Bolton raid, the occupation of DC, a bunch of other stuff, But for this first segment, and I will do one more newsy segment before wrapping up the show. But the thing that's been dominating social media in the last 48 hours, at least my slice of social media, obviously, one of the whole things is like this is very bubble oriented and you see certain things and not others, but has been first, like the look for weeks now. There's been an increasing buzz about Trump doesn't look good. We've talked about it here on the show about Trump's health, and he's not looking good and he's got bruises, and what about his swollen ankles, and does this mean he has congestive heart failure? Does this mean his death is imminent? All of this kind of stuff. Well, Friday of this week, this accelerated because somebody, I forget what, some personality or other, I forget which one it was, posted that, hey, by the way, Trump hasn't been seen in person in 3 days, and there's nothing on his schedule for the long Labor Day weekend. What's going on? So, of course, the internet concluded, at least the left leaning part of the internet, started speculating he must be dead. He must be dead. And they are covering it up and or just haven't figured out how to release it yet. And the stuff's going on. He must be dead. He's either dead or almost dead or something like that. And any moment now will come an official announcement from the White House that he's dead and Vance is president now. Speculation was really, really rampant on Friday night U.S. time. It was just crazy. Like, and from not just like wackadoodle accounts, but like fairly prominent folks with lots of followers, responsible journalists, like for the most part, traditional journalists were not saying a damn thing. They weren't about to touch this with a 10-foot pole, as they say. But they were, the sort of next layer downs, the George Conways of the world, and sort of the pundits, the people who weren't sort of traditional journalists, but who were liberal influencers of one sort or another, were running with this. And even when they were like, "Oh, we don't know anything, we're not sure, but maybe he's dead. Maybe he's about to be dead. It's really suspicious that he hasn't shown his face in 3 days, and why doesn't he have anything scheduled for the weekend?" And blah 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 blah. I went into the Curmudgeon And my statement there was the following. Okay, so social media has now been going nuts over the fact Trump hasn't been seen in public for 3 days and has no scheduled events for the long weekend. I figure it is the usual rumors spiraling way past reality, and he will probably show up again at any moment. But I figured I would go ahead and note it here. Pete, who co hosted last week, said his underlings are not publicly stabbing each other in the back yet, so it can't be that dire. And then approximately, what is it? Can I do math? 8 hours after I posted this, uh, we did have a Trump spotting. He was spotted leaving the White House with his granddaughter Kai, loading the motorcade to go golfing in Virginia. And then since then, there have been he went jogging a bit. Jogging? No, he's not jogging. Sorry, golfing. There's a difference there. Jogging and golfing. I have not seen any evidence of Trump jogging. I'm not sure that that is a thing he does. But anyway, no, yeah. He apparently went golfing again Sunday, and there was another picture circulated of him leaving for golfing. There was a little bit of controversy because the White House also put out a picture supposedly of Trump actually golfing, but that picture turned out to be months old. So it's like, why did they do that? And a number of people have pointed out that in the pictures of him leaving the White House to go golfing, he doesn't look that great. At least that's what the commentary says. But honestly, they are not great pictures taken from quite a bit away. And, you know, look, there are a couple things I want to talk about this. First of all, is this whole zeitgeist on social media had the feeling of like people being super excited. Oh my God, this is great. Maybe he's dead. And getting really hyped up and worked up about it that, maybe this is, and I'll add, this is a meme that's been going on social media for quite a while too, is like, what will it be like when it happens? Where it is quite clearly an announcement that Trump has passed away. And people posting all kinds of like memes about how there will be celebrations in the street. And look, I'll be honest, there probably will be. There will be lots of excited people. There will be lots of upset, sad people as well. I mean, the country is very divided on this issue. And, it's it's a few steps away from people actively like being like, we hope something does something to Donald Trump. That's a whole different thing. This is people hoping he drops dead of natural causes. Yvonne has been on this show hoping that he drops dead of natural causes and expressing his wish that that happens sooner rather than later. And all over social media, and look, when I say social media at this point, I'm not on X. I check Threads fairly rarely. I'm mostly on Blue Sky these days, but I also still check Mastodon regularly. But on Mastodon, I usually check only my feed of people who post about the news, not my feed of everything. And then I'm on TikTok a lot. So when I say on social media, I'm talking about that universe of things. Oh, I didn't even mention Facebook. I do check Facebook occasionally, but I don't see this kind of stuff there, and I don't check all the time for Facebook. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about on social media. But people were really excited about this. And first of all, look, I understand, but that's still not a great look, But also the running ahead of the facts. And look, I understand nobody trusts the White House physician's office at this point. We talked about that on the show a couple weeks ago. how even before Donald Trump, it's not been an office that's been particularly forthcoming about presidential health issues. Um, going going back decades for presidents of both parties, some have been more forthcoming than others, but even then, it's not like they're really releasing everything. It's always sort of, here's some basic information, here's the standard high level stuff, and I feel like the level of disclosure does vary quite a bit, president to president. But in this particular case with Donald Trump, we know he's had doctors lie about his weight, lie about other numbers. They always come out and say, like, he's the healthiest president ever. So nobody believes the official updates, understandably. And he has not looked great on a number of recent occasions. He's had the swelling of the ankles, and the White House doctor's office did provide an explanation for that. Some people think it's more than that, but they did provide an explanation. He's had the bruises on his hand, but as we've talked about here before, that is very common. It is not necessarily like some people have been talking about it like it's a sign of imminent death. And it isn't necessarily. Now, could Donald Trump drop dead of a heart attack or stroke or something else imminently? Could it happen at any moment? Well, yeah. He's he's an older man, not in the best shape in the world. So could it happen at any moment? Sure, it could. He could also last years and years and years and years. And even people who've talked about some of his specific symptoms that have been obvious, even without trusting the doctor, they're like, yeah, those are sometimes indicative of serious underlying conditions. Sometimes they're not. But very often they do indicate some kind of underlying condition. But those underlying conditions can last for years. It is not necessarily a sign of imminent death. It's not like, oh, he's definitely going to be gone in days or weeks or anything like that. Again, maybe, could happen, could also be years. And so, like, I've watched a decent amount of this speculation. I've seen all kinds of like people on TikTok that claim to be, who knows if they really are or not, but claim to be doctors or nurses or people who work in hospice or whatever, saying things like, oh, this looks like something I often see. And when I see this, things very often go downhill very rapidly. I've seen lots of those comments. I've also seen, much more rarely, but I have also seen the countervailing, yeah, but like, of course, maybe hospice nurses see all this time right before people die, but they're hospice nurses. That restricts the universe of people they're seeing anyway. This kind of stuff also happens in people who last a long time. And so there's a lot of casting here of people who want to see Trump gone and move on. And, look, there's all kinds of other stuff. There's like, and people are saying, well, why? Like, when have you ever seen Trump stay away from the press this long? He loves, like, talking to the press and, it takes every possible advantage of it. And now he's like intentionally like gone for days. And even his social media posts seem to be posts more like things that staff would write. Even one that he posted that was a long rant about somebody damaging the new patio where they paved over the rose garden. Apparently a contractor installing something else like scratched it or something. And so there was a long rant complaining about that. But people were like trying to read into it, like, oh, but this, yes, it was a long rant. It was a long rant that people clearly wanted to sound like Donald Trump, but it has proper punctuation, and he never does that. So maybe that's not really Donald Trump posting that. Maybe that's somebody else, and posting on his behalf, and he's still not really doing anything. And he posted again, apparently earlier today, just saying, "Never felt better in my life," all caps. Also, DC is a crime-free zone. President DJT. So, because people keep asking for, like, can we see that he's really good? Like, and look, it is very possible the man hasn't been feeling good the last couple days. He was sick. He was in bed. Took a little time off. It is a holiday weekend. The last couple days, he's apparently been golfing. And people have been like, whoa, but we got pictures of him leaving the White House, but we didn't have any like press sightings at the golf course actually watching him golf. And look, sometimes we have that, sometimes we don't. And again, look, another aspect of this is obviously, given what we saw in 2024, the slightest little thing about Joe Biden also led to this kind of speculation, both on the right and with Democrats who clearly wanted to push out Joe Biden, even before the bad debate. So we did have this with Joe Biden as well. We're now having it with Donald Trump. So although I have seen a number of people on the left complaining that yes, sort of the left-wing social media sphere has been full of this, but as I said earlier, the mainstream press, for the most part, was not engaging in this speculation. A couple mentions here and there, but they weren't going nuts with it. Whereas with the Biden stuff, of course, it became the all-consuming conversation for like months, it seems like. Is he too old? What's going on? Is he healthy? Does he have an issue? Does he do this? And yes, I acknowledge that asymmetry. But I kind of think it was overblown with Biden. And I kind of think it's overblown here. Now just watch, before I even publish this podcast episode, he's going to drop dead or something. But, and again, possible. But fundamentally, I feel like let's try to stick with the actual known information as much as possible. And there is plenty of things that the Trump administration is doing to do day by day, hour by hour, that we can talk about and react to, that we know are happening. At the beginning of this segment, I listed a few of them, right? We've got, the troops in DC. We've got potential troops going to Chicago soon. We've got the Bolton thing. We've got the decimation of the CDC. We've got firing the Federal Reserve, or trying to fire a governor of the Federal Reserve. We've got lots of stuff going on that is real, and know for sure it's real. There's no question about that. It seems like this kind of feeding frenzy over Donald Trump, like not showing his face for a couple days, is a waste of time. If he actually dies, we will know about it. We will know about it really quickly. There's not going to be, I could say this right now, we're not going to have a gap between when the president dies and when we get a news alert about it that is measured even in hours, let alone days. Okay. At worst case scenario, he goes to bed and passes away right after he goes to bed, and it isn't discovered until morning. So, okay, 8 or 9 hours maximum, in that sort of scenario. But if it happens during the day, there is no way that thing doesn't leak within moments of it happening. Because there's going to be a scramble at the White House. There are going to be ambulances. There are going to be people running. There are going to be members of the random White House staff who tell people about it instantly. That would be known immediately. And if he is sick enough to go to the hospital, even, that's going to come out pretty quick too. Remember when he had COVID during the first term? Now, there was some hemming and hawing, and there was a lot of, it became clear later that it was much more serious than they let on. But we knew he took the helicopter to Johns Hopkins, like when it happened. This is not a universe where it is a realistic thing to think, oh, the president died and they're covering it up. We're not going to have a Dave scenario. That is the right movie, right? Dave, I remember liking that movie. Let's double check it. Dave movie. And I should add it to my list again. Yes, Dave is a 1993 American political comedy. There we go. Taking a picture of it to make sure it's re-added to my list. He's a presidential lookalike hired by the Secret Service to be a stand-in, but the stand-in becomes stuck in the role indefinitely after the president suffers a major stroke. That's the fundamental plot of the movie, and then things happen, and it turns out that the imposter Dave is a better president than the one he replaced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That situation is not going to happen in real life. If something serious happens to Donald Trump, we will know really quickly. I'm sorry, like anybody who wants to fantasize about these other scenarios, no, we would know right away. Now, that's if something acute happens, either death or something serious enough to go to the hospital right away. He's obviously got really good medical care right there at the White House. If he's just sick and it isn't something that actually requires rushing him to the hospital and he can be treated there at the White House, I absolutely believe they could and probably would keep that as quiet as possible and might be able to succeed in keeping that information from being out there. Like, is he getting IV treatments on a regular basis? Maybe. They could do that at the White House. They've got everything they need to do that there. Yeah, he could be treated for all kinds of conditions. He could have something serious that doesn't require hospitalization. And yeah, that could happen. But again, I feel like us spending, and of course I'm spending a whole segment on this, but I'm kind of reacting not to the rumors themselves, but to not to President Trump may be sick or dead, but to how everybody's reacting to that. And I feel like it's kind of a waste of time. When we figure it out, not when we figure, if something serious happens, we'll know then, and then we can react to that then, and whatever happens then. Like if Vance does become president, then we can start talking about that. I mean, it is interesting a little bit to speculate how Vance would be as a president compared to Donald Trump. What would be the same? What would be different, et cetera. Agendas would be different. Style would be different. He might keep some things. He might ditch others. Like I think he'd probably ditch the tariffs, but there's a whole bunch of stuff he would double down on. Who are the people that whisper in his ear is a different set of people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Interesting conversation, but I feel like, I don't know. And look, I was watching all the rumors. I was checking social media regularly to see if something was new. Has he shown up? Has there been some leak of something? Look, yeah, okay. I was checking it regularly all night Friday night. I fully admit that. But is that a waste of time compared to other things? I think it is. I think it probably was. You know, um, if something happens, it happens, and we'll know then. In the meantime, we can talk about the other stuff. And with that, I am going to take another one of these exciting breaks, and I will once again go do other stuff. I'm going to do some stuff with my son. I will come back and we'll do one more newsy segment. Unless, and I will tell you, it will be one of the other things, something other than Trump's health, unless Trump actually does get rushed to the hospital or dies before I do the next segment. I'm not holding my breath for that. But yeah, people are still talking about it right now. Within the last few minutes, Midas Touch just did another post linking to something they're saying. The mysterious case of disappearing Trump continues to leave more questions than answers with each proof of life post put out by him. Get the latest updates in this weekend's bulletin. I'm not even bothering clicking through. But obviously, it's a way to get engagement. Lots of people talking about this, lots of people excited. But yeah. Okay, it's break time. Break time, break time, break time. And this time it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, did I count wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, there we go. There we go. It's this one. It's super short. This is the new one that's super short. Fun. Here we go.
I wanna be on top of the tree. I wanna be on the floor when I fall off the tree.
Okay, that's it. Stopping the live stream, and we'll pick up on this in a few hours. It is a holiday weekend, but I still want to get the podcast out in the next few hours, not like tomorrow. It may be Monday UTC by the time it will almost certainly, it will be Monday UTC before I get it out. But I don't want it to be Monday Pacific time before I get it out. Although it might be, who knows. Anyway, bye folks.